Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, The Wealthy Mindset. It's yours truly, Money Making Mitch. And as usual, guys, this is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence and research. So yes, I'm doing yet another video. But to set the stage for today's video, take a look at this clip and then we shall continue.
I think it's very clear that basically Hong Kong is a kind of good place for the Chinese companies to be listed here. Basically, we can see in the past few years, the Chinese companies that they're facing a lot of headwinds globally, and right now we are seeing that this company coming up to Hong Kong to do that, and we can see the recent IPOs actually is very kind of attractive, and basically a lot of money funds goes into this market, and in the meantime, the surprise to the market as well, which is that the Hong Kong index, Hang Seng index, doing pretty well this year as well. So I think we can see that it looks like a lot of kind of corporates are pumped into this market. But in the meantime, it looks like more funds coming from all around Hong Kong, not only from China but also from the rest of the world. I think this is kind of an improving signal that showing that Hong Kong is become more kind of popular again. And in the meantime, we do see that the new consumption stocks become the stellar kind of points of this market as well. So I think basically when we talk to investors here and there, they're always concerned about tariffs. They're always concerned about China-U.S. relations. But in the meantime, they're kind of very confident to see that the so-called new consumption, which is made for China, all these kind of users also from China, and manufacturing supply chain also in China. They're very confident to see, okay, these kind of companies will kind of make value for investors in the future.
We heard from Premier Li Qiang. He was saying that China is a mega-sized consumption powerhouse, and that's on top of being a manufacturing powerhouse. So we know it as, of course, an export, a huge exporter, the manufacturing hub of the world. But now, as it looks to become a consumption powerhouse, how do you think it'll go about doing that?
Well, I think it's kind of step by step. Basically, I look at the Chinese economy for almost 20 years. Basically, when we start, exports is actually most important numbers, when we look at. And I think, one thing I believe that, 10 years ago, we came to Hong Kong to buy iPhones. And right now, my wife actually is living here, and she's trying to get some iPhone from onshore China. We know that the government provides subsidies. And these kind of things clearly illustrate the kind of dynamics changes between Hong Kong the consumption trend in China as well.
And you mentioned that subsidies as well as the trade-in scheme. The China State Plan are saying that sales revenues of products under the consumer goods trade-in scheme surpassed 1.4 trillion yuan so far this year. So as far as remaining confident and capable of growth, of course, they're expecting economic growth of around 5%. How convinced are you that China can do this? Yes, it was very strong in the first half of this year because there was all this front loading. But how does the second half look?
Well, I think in the last time when we talked about China economy, I think I'm the only one saying that China will still try to achieve the 5% growth. So I think it's very clear that when we talked about the tariffs, the manufacturers, the exporters, they gradually get used to it, and the market actually really is not very scared about what's going on between China and the U.S. We know what will happen. Basically, there probably no deal in the future. But the most important thing is still try to find your leeways and find your comparative advantage. And I think when we just look at the video from IKEA guy, I think it's very clear that when we go shopping on China, it's always that pricing go lower and lower, and I actually get a very high quality, which is different from 20 years ago.
All right, guys, welcome back. Now, I hope you guys remember that I did speak about this happening, not that long ago, perhaps about 3 months ago, perhaps a little bit more, where I said there would be a decoupling, where companies will start listing on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange instead of the American Stock Exchange. But how did I know that? Well, it's the same way I understand and know that we're going to make millions with NEO. It's critical thinking and common sense, not a college degree. I'm from the streets. You see, China is, if not already, the largest economy in the world, where America is $36 trillion plus in debt, keeps growing every second, keeps printing money. China manufactures more goods than any other country in the world. They have a larger consumer base. This is why I've always said if Tesla were to leave China tomorrow, they would go bankrupt. Now we see, and I've spoken about it, where Tesla is crumbling in China, and with the four horsemen that is coming for him, Xpeng, NIO, Xiaomi, Li Auto, they are releasing an electric SUV model in every week for the next 4 weeks. The four horsemen is coming to wipe him out. Now, whilst all this is happening, and I saw the decoupling coming, and all these companies are now going to be listing in Hong Kong, a lot of money around the world will be flowing into China. And whilst this is happening, the reason for it, and they're not talking about it, is not just because, rightfully so, the country with the largest economy, the most manufacturing, should have the biggest stock market, but it's happening and it's being sped up because of the illegal manipulation that takes place in the American stock market since they started. I spoke about this before, since the George Bush administration allowed shorting, because the stock market was supposed to be a place where companies come and list in order to grow, employ people, and be beneficial for the world, not just that country and that economy. But that's no longer the case with the American stock market. So what else do I have for you guys? Well, remember when the shorts used to come on my channel and say battery swapping is a waste? It is cash burn. And now they don't, I don't know if you guys noticed that in the comment section, they don't do that anymore. They can't say that anymore. So they try different tactics. This is the way the propaganda machine works. So CATL teamed up with us in order to help us build battery swap stations globally. I'm not sure why they waited this long. Perhaps they did not even have the vision as the great emperor William Lee. And now that they've seen that NIO was over, I guess, 73 million swaps at that time, they jumped in with us. Now we're over 76 million and counting swaps, proving that, and 80% of NIO owners choose BAS when they buy their car, showing that it's the only way forward. Proving yet again, even CATL said it just today, that it helps the owner retain value in the car, because most people who buy an EV and realize that the battery degradation is real and that their car is worthless will never buy an EV again. But the ones who buy EVs and rent the battery through battery as a service, like with NIO or CATL now, because CATL will be facilitating the low-end market, William Lee explained that, those people will always choose to buy another EV. So CATL, that teamed up with us, is now planning to introduce battery swapping to Europe. Of course, it will take time because they first have to fulfill their goal in China to help NIO with the battery swap stations, and to also build out battery swap stations for the lower end models like Xpeng and Li Auto and the rest of them. But they have to fulfill their promise to China first, which is, I think, 10,000 battery swap stations. But he said battery swap technology, this is the CEO of CATL, holds huge potential in Europe as it can reduce battery costs and extend battery lifespan. Yes, because the battery swap station charges the batteries slowly, so it helps the lifespan of the battery, whereas with the other EV companies, when you have an EV that's only chargeable, that's not upgradable, that's not swappable, you're supercharging that car a lot and your battery degradation is real. So it says it's planned to bring its battery swap and recycling technology to Europe amid a global battle to secure more sustainable electric vehicle supply chain. The Financial Times said in a report today. CATL board secretary Jian Li told the Financial Times in an interview that battery swap has huge potential in Europe as it can reduce battery costs and extend battery lifespan. So the battery giant aims to build 1,000 battery swap stations in China by the end of this year and 10,000 within the next 3 years. So I suspect that they will be trying to build out these battery swap stations in China first, the 10,000, before heading to Europe to help us out, to help out the low-end market. And they are already in talks with car companies in Europe to help them out with that. So it went on to say NIO vehicles that support battery swapping can also use fast charging. People keep forgetting that for those who don't want to use battery swapping to get power for the batteries, just like other conventional EV models. And this is a huge piece of news, and it is a really good business model. It is the only way forward. I've always said that. Some people will have to learn the hard way, of course, like people who are still buying EVs that are not battery swappable. It will be a very hard learning process for them, to say the least. And as NIO grows from a sapling into a powerful tree by the end of this year, and the shorts will be caught because NIO said it will be sudden and massive, so they wouldn't have time to react. I hope you guys found this video yet again to be informational, inspirational, and motivational. If so, guys, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Takes a lot of time to do these videos and the editing. And if you haven't yet subscribed, you might want to think about doing so, because in this channel, we are waking up the middle class for the first time to get a major piece of the pie from the ground level up as to how the games are played on Wall Street. And like 50 said, we get rich or we die trying, guys.